Okay. So, greetings, everyone out there in virtual land. I'm Michael Naylor, and I'm the director of the Maine Enneagram Center for Transformation and Change. And I've been doing these YouTube interviews on the types for almost 2 years now. It's just been so enlightening for me. So I hope that you too really enjoy this. Today I've got Ron Esposito, and Ron has a great background, an Enneagram coach, Enneagram recovery coach, um, certified teacher out of Cincinnati, an expert with the crystal bowls for enhancing your vibratory awareness. And what did I miss there? Just throw anything up.
I think you covered it all, Michael.
And known for his great sense of humor and boldness of presentation. So that said, I'd love to take people on a journey, looking at the agony and the ecstasy of the type 1, and maybe to start with talking a bit about your discovery of the Enneagram, and then of your type and all that good stuff.
Sure thing. Well, Michael, in 2005, after 20 years in public radio broadcasting, the station I worked at got sold. So it was like, okay, you get to reinvent yourself for the nth time as an adult. Mm-hmm. And I've interviewed a lot of people over my years in public radio up to that point, and I remembered Dr. Debbie Uten from the Conscious Living Center here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I called her up, wanted to have lunch with her. We had a lunch. She told me about the Enneagram and invited me to come be at the Conscious Living Center, take the 2-year program to learn the Enneagram and the spiral levels of consciousness and coaching with the Enneagram. And I did. I started at the Conscious Living Center in 2005, was certified in all these areas. In 2007, hung out my shingle.
Awesome. And so, some people describe learning about their type as sometimes a shock. So I believe you said you're a type 1. So tell us a little bit about what that has been for you then.
Sure. So I love this story. So I got the thin book that David Daniels did, the yellow one on the Enneagram, right?
Yeah.
And I started reading through it, came up with a few types, I think about 3 of them, and had my late girlfriend, Carol, read through them. And she just starts laughing hysterically. And she goes, "Did you read that type 1?" And I go, "Well, yeah." And she goes, "You're a type 1, buddy." After I read it a little more thoroughly in girlfriend's eyes, there was no doubt, brother, that I was a type 1. So that's kind of how I discovered my type.
Well, I always encourage people to, if they have doubt about their type, to talk to their partners, and that they usually nail it pretty good. So yeah. So if you're going to talk about the agony and ecstasy of the type 1, like either end of it, what's been the best and what's the worst?
Well, I tell you what, let's start with the agony, okay?
All
right. Nothing beats an unrelenting internal critic. Yeah, so internal critic, the shoulda, coulda, woulda, the whole 9 yards. I'm very familiar with. And, the inner perfectionism, the judgment, the just scratch me a little below the surface and you'll find that underlying anger. Okay. Resistance to what is. Oh, it shouldn't be this way. I should be able to get on the interstate and just drive wherever I want to go and not have to deal with everybody else, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a real type 1, brother. So that's the agony end. The ecstasy end is that, you know, um, type 1 has a move to 7, has a move to 4, high side, low side, right?
Right.
I love my move to the high side of 7, where I'm playful. I love absurdity. I love making fun of myself. Usually, when I teach or present, I love making myself the butt of my jokes. Okay. So I like that. I like that. So, I'm in my 17th year of working with the Enneagram professionally. And I have to tell you, brother, I'm so glad that I practice self-observation. You know, I remember going to Debbie's office one day, Dr. Debbie Uden, who's my supervisor. And I walked in her office and, it's about, you know, almost 2 years in to my studies. And I go, you know what, D? I don't think I'm as conscious as I thought I was. and she and she gets this wry smile on her face. And she goes, well, Ron, you got to be half-assed conscious to realize you're not as conscious as you thought you were. I love that. So here
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah. Well, say a little bit, if you would, about what helps you with self-observation.
Sure. Okay. So, what has helped me with self-observation is I believe in conscious choice. Okay. Most things are out of our control. I mean, almost probably everything, really, right?
Yeah.
So I don't run the world. Okay. And, gratefully, I've realized I don't run the world. So when stuff happens, no matter what it is, being able to have that gap that comes with a self-observation practice between the stimulus or the thing that triggers me and my response. I don't use the word reaction. Reaction to me is unconscious. Okay. Now, that's not to say I'm conscious 24/7, because I'm not. It actually, I think that helps me actually be a better coach and teacher because I've realized I'm human, which to a lot of people might sound like, duh, what? But, for a type 1, I've had to come to terms with my humanity, right? So, with that said, when I'm triggered, it's being able to notice that I'm triggered and to make a more conscious choice about my response. And that can only come about through self-observation. Now, luckily, you know, I've been, a mystic and interested in spirituality and consciousness since I was about 23 years old.
Mhm.
And so the idea of self-observation was not foreign to me. What really was the key was knowing this laundry list of everything that makes you or me a type 1. And so it's like, oh, you're feeling resentful. Oh, you're feeling, jealousy, fill in the blank. And it's helpful to know all the variety of aspects that go into the formation of my type. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I wonder if you could reflect a little bit on, what it was like for you as a little guy, or as a kid, or high school, like how you dealt with that energy, that type 1 energy.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be very frank with you, Michael. Okay.
Mhm.
I was born in 1950, so I'm
Mhm.
72 years old. I come from a Catholic Italian American family.
Mm.
Okay. So I started parochial school in 1956. Anybody that knows anything about Roman Catholicism
I
in the
do.
1950s, okay,
Heavy
will know.
sin. Hmm.
Yeah, heavy sin, buddy. Heavy sin. And so, literally, I felt like I was 6 or 7 years old going on 30.
Mm.
The weight of it
Hmm.
all.
Mm.
I felt like I could not make a mistake. I felt like um, I had to be a good boy so you would not criticize me. I uh, I just kind of felt the weight
Yeah.
of it all,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, even for a period of time, I I bit my fingernails.
Hmm.
I even had a very slight stutter,
Mm.
which which of course went away gratefully as I grew older and more into my self, shall we speak.
Hmm.
So, coupled with the aspects of being a type 1 and with Roman Catholicism of the 1950s, it's like, oh boy, we're getting set up for a lot of stuff here. And of course, our good friend and one of my mentors, Father Richard Rohr, who happens to also be a type 1. I've been so grateful to Richard over the years, how he has written about himself and his own self acceptance. It's been wonderful for me.
Yeah.
Particularly, since when I started the Enneagram work. And it's
Yeah.
kind of ironic. I'm pretty much done with religion. I'm
Mhm.
big into spirituality, but pretty done with religion that, a full on Catholic priest is one of the people that I look up to and admire uh,
Yeah.
for because certainly he's a type 1 and a very high end mystic. So yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that I also was raised in the Catholic Church, and that heavy, guilt aura that touched everything, and so I was a pretty serious kid. I'll tell you, there wasn't too many days of
yeah,
laughter, and because I was pretty sure I was going to go to hell on a daily basis. It was pretty intense. But yeah, so yeah, Father Rohr is really such a gift to all of us. And I remember he was being interviewed by Oprah one day, and she said to him, what percentage of the day are you conscious? And he said, well, on a really good day, about 30%. And her jaw dropped. And he said, well, wait a second. It used to only be 4%. I've come a long way, right? And just that kind of self effacing humor and humility, I just really appreciate around him. So, So, did you continue your uh, heavy journey through high school in a Catholic high school, or did you get to break out?
I did, yeah, yeah. I had 12 years of Catholic education, which which ended in when I graduated from high school in 1968. Yeah, I was, first call, altar boy, 6 a.m. mass.
Yep,
You know, I knew the liturgy as good as the priest.
yep.
I was one of those guys who played guitar for the folk mass, the whole 9 yards. And of course, I was one of those guys who, at age 18, entered Ohio University as a philosophy and English major and immediately became an existentialist to the degree that I understood existentialism. All right.
Yeah.
Jean Paul Sartre. But at the same time, whenever I kind of got into a jam, it would be, dear God, help me, kind of, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but, yeah, kind of gratefully as I expanded in my own spirituality and consciousness, I've come to my own personal relationship with God, the cosmos, universe, higher power, whatever we have to call it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. One of the things I've heard one say is that as a little boy or little girl, that they had to fire their parents because they felt like their parents didn't know how to parent correctly, and they sort of took on that sense of responsibility, the adultness as a kid. But did you? And I hear what was true for you.
Now, I didn't want to fire my parents, okay?
Hmm.
And at the same time, I definitely felt like I was 6 going on to 30.
Yes.
I felt this certainly responsibility.
Mm.
I mean, if you said 2 o'clock, I was there at 10 minutes to 2. I
Mm.
did my homework. I got good grades. I was in Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Explorer Scouts, president of Junior Achievement, National Honor Society. you if you read my resume at age 16, you would think I was running for elected office or something. I was, not to mention, I was on the speech team and even placed second in the state of Ohio. Get this, for humorous declamation. Okay.
Oh, that's great.
I know, man. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was a good boy. Okay.
I hear you. I hear you.
Hey, I remember this other thing about Richard Rohr and Oprah, the same program you're referring to. And Oprah said to Richard, "So, Richard, how do you know when you're in your ego?" And he looked right at her and he said, "When I get tweaked." Oh, that was good. That was another good line. Yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Well, I wonder, that sort of type one burden of perfectionism.
Yeah,
I'm a four that goes to one, so that and that fours and ones can carry that idealism, right, of how things should be. But what
yeah,
has helped you to develop more mercy for yourself and your humanness? What helped you to start to relax that voracious inner critic? Anything in particular?
yeah, yeah. Um, you know, um, Copenhagen, 2015,
Hmm.
at an IEA conference there.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I was triggered a lot
Hmm.
um, by a number of events that were taking place. some professionally, some personally. And I remember calling the USA at night when I got back to my hotel room. Because thank God for that 6-hour time difference the other way, that I could call people in the US to describe what was going on with me. In fact, I'm kind of choking up as I think about it right now. And what came home to me was, oh, Ron, you're a teacher of consciousness. Oh, Ron, you present at Enneagram conferences. Oh, Ron, you're a professional in the Enneagram world, respected by my peers, people who know me, who have a sense of me. You shouldn't feel this way. Oh boy. Those shoulds for a type 1, no matter what your status is, I was reminded full force that I'm a human being. And I'm a human being first, before any of the letters after my name or any of the accreditations. In that, this is what it's like to be a human being. Now, this may sound like weird to people, to go, well, hell yeah, you're a human being. Come on, what do you think you are? Well, the type 1 has a lot of shoulds, as you know what I'm saying? And I had to fully come to grips with my humanness.
Yeah.
And that it was okay to be human.
Yeah.
If you feel jealous, it's part of being a human being. And let's look at what's making you feel jealous, okay? Having that experience or whatever you fill in the blank.
Yeah.
So I'd say Copenhagen 2015 was a really, really big deal for me, man.
Awesome.
I turned 65. I turned 65 over there, and it was a big deal. It was a real turning point. I thought of, I even thought of the Christ for a hot second, overthrowing the tables, the money changers in the temple, remember? And well, I don't think the Christ was overturning those tables with a smile on his face.
Probably not.
He was righteously pissed off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was like, the Christ, at least in that example, and of course, many, many more, was demonstrating to us that, hey, I'm really divine and human. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. We're in this form, spirit, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, incarnated in this form. It's okay to be human. I tell that to myself. A lot of you already know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I went through, a knee replacement about 9 weeks ago and anticipated it would be really easy. And the first week was, and then from week 2 to 4, I just felt so trapped in my body, and all of my frustration, resentment, irritability, lack of compassion, just like came. It's like I thought they were hermetically sealed in my soul, and out they came. It's like, oh my God, I've just reverted into the worst case scenario of me. And it was like I could sort of see it, but it just took me over. And thank God for my beloved wife who had gone through the experience before herself. But it was just, the first conversation is, of all the inner work I've done, I shouldn't be having this response. Well, screw that. I am having this response, and I couldn't change it if I wanted to.
Right. So, what's beautiful about that, brother? Again, I'm going to go to roar on this. Both and thinking. Yeah. I'm I'm pissed off. I'm like hurting. I'm all of this stuff, and I'm aware of it. I'm, it doesn't have to. Yeah, it's both and. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. So there was,
and and
yeah.
and and I tell you what, that both and thinking has so helped me
Mm,
to ameliorate the
mm,
black and white thinking of
yeah.
type 1,
Yeah.
because everything is both and, brother. We know that.
Yeah.
Hardly anything is this or that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's all,
Mm,
it's all, it's all this. There you go.
yeah. It all belongs, as Richard would
It
say.
does. That's
Yeah.
right. It all belongs, of course. It's
Yeah.
what we do with it.
Yeah. I think that the orientation I had growing up as a little Catholic kid was that my mission was to destroy my character flaws, right? By beating myself
Right.
voraciously. And I remember my teacher said, well, whatever you try to beat up inside of yourself will stick to you like Velcro. I want to encourage you to just observe with interest and not beat yourself up. But that was like a huge revelation, like, oh, because I thought I could, duct tape my personality patterns to the ground and then burn them, and they seemed to get larger as a result of it. So, yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
I mean, one of my favorite sayings is we really don't get rid of anything. We're just able to observe it better and make more conscious choice about it. You
yes,
know?
yeah. I think that's an important idea. The idea is that we don't get rid of things. I remember, I'm in the Gurdjieff work, and my teacher said, you're not going to get rid of your patterns. They're already woven into your neural pathways. You're just going to learn to observe them and not identify with them so much, and maybe not let them run out like a intense Irish setter that just runs your day, right? But that's
Yeah,
an important
exactly.
idea. There's no getting
Yeah,
rid of. I like that.
that's right. So let's toast the idiot. What do you say,
That's
Michael?
right. That's right. From one idiot to the other. It's like,
That's right, brother.
yeah, yeah.
That's right. Mhm.
Well, the other
I
thing that,
love the Gurdjieff work.
yeah, it's
I'm
it's
sorry.
uh, it's pretty it's been really good for me. I think the thing I've really loved about it is that it's really about, in my experience, really recognizing that I'm just like everyone else. It's very humbling, and very, like as Gurdjieff would say, you're a fool, I'm a fool, so we can have a conversation and let's see what we come up with, right? So, but there's a lot of tenderness, and it's been really good for me. So, not everybody's had that experience, but that's okay. So for
Yeah.
you, in particular, spiritual paths that have caught, or teachers. I know Richard Rohr is one. Others that have
Sure.
really been. That,
Yeah. Right. So to begin with that, I was in a Gurdjieff group while living in New York City in 1972, 73.
mhm.
And in fact, for a while, I drove cab. And in my taxi cab, I had books on the Gurdjieff work, Krishnamurti,
Mhm.
and Ram Dass.
Yeah, Ram Dass.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I had Ram Dass's Be Here Now. I had
Mhm.
Krishnamurti's Think on These Things. And
Mhm.
I had some works by Gurdjieff, Ospensky, and Maurice Nicoll.
Yeah.
And of course, the Gurdjieff work helped me in regard to the three centers of intelligence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, Krishnamurti, his big thing was to question everything and kind of find your own inner authority, shall we say.
Yeah.
And that was good. And I tell you what really, really brought it home for me was Ram Dass.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
because it's before I came to New York, I lived in Boston. And of course, Leary and then Richard Elbert were at Harvard,
Mm.
and on their way out the door. And of course, I tell you what, Ram Dass's "Be Here Now," if I was to pick one thing, was it.
Yeah.
Of course, his heart-centered approach to being human and spirituality. Within a year and a half of reading "Be Here Now," I was in an ashram in Miami Beach, Florida, with a legit guru, teacher, a Russian woman, ex-ballerina. Her name was Shivananda Valentina. And she is still close to my heart
Yeah.
as we speak right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I had a second teacher. Richard Francis was his name. And my third teacher, Dr. Debbie Uten. Now, along the way, I immersed myself in the bibliography at the back of "Be Here Now."
Oh.
And I dove seriously into that bibliography. So, Indian philosophy is one of my great interests. Of course, being in an ashram, coming from the Indian tradition, of course, I was exposed to a lot of that teaching and philosophy. So those are my three major influences. And of course, we could go on for the next hour, talking about teachers. And of course, when I did meet Richard Rohr, he definitely came into, one of the people that certainly has influenced me. And I always thought it was ironic as hell that this guy's a Franciscan priest. It was like, yeah. But anyway, that's kind of an encapsulated version.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I certainly, Ram Dass was the one that really sort of started it for me, and such a gentle, compassionate man. And then Pema Chodron is another one that's been. She's very much heart centered, and of course, I got to study with Russ and Don, and be around their heart centered, which is great, and then just a lot of different influences as yourself. And I was just thinking, how lucky we are to have so many amazing teachings available to us in these very strange and crazy times, of which we seem to be getting tested beyond my imagination. But and the Gurdjieff work has been Gurdjieff and Diamond Heart too. But in some ways, they all sort of have a, Gurdjieff talked about that. That there are 5 or 6 threads that all lead to the same thing. So grab onto the thread that works for you, and certainly that's been the case.
That's right.
The case for me. So when you think about that kind of one-ish capacity to see what's missing or what's out of place or not in a state of perfection, which if used correctly can be great, but it can also not allow you to rest, right? Because there's some of the times the ones will say, I have like a personal obligation when I see something's off to say something or do something, and it's almost like something grabs me and says, you must speak. What's been true for you?
Okay, what's been true for me is nature. I was very fortunate that as a child growing up in Youngstown, Ohio, in the 1950s and early 1960s, our backyard abutted one of the largest municipal parks in the United States. It's called Mill Creek Park. And as a young boy, I spent hours upon hours in nature.
Awesome.
And I tell you, I'm choking up just thinking about it right now. I never was in Mill Creek Park and thought to myself, oh, you see that tree over there? It would look better over there. It was just, I tell you what, bro, whenever I got into nature, it was just, all that type 1 stuff
Yeah.
kind of eased up. It
Yeah.
just kind of eased up
Mm.
because the natural world is perfect. It's perfect as it is.
Mm.
And you know what? We're perfect as we are.
Mm.
And
Mm.
when I started to really get that
Mm.
and kind of ease up on myself,
Mhm.
self-love started to enter.
Mm.
And then when I started to love myself, I could love everything
Mm.
for as it is, for what it is.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
been a great, great, great release for me. Now,
Mm.
yeah, can I still get all jacked up on in a traffic jam if I'm trying to get somewhere? Yes, I can. Okay. And with that said, I observe it. So I practice traffic yoga. I am not going to be blowing the horn and going, yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, Ron, this is out of your control. Why don't we just surrender to the fact we're not going anywhere? And then, that helps.
That's great. I like that. Traffic yoga. That there should be
Yeah, right.
that'd be a great Zoom class to teach. There's a lot of people could join that. Uh, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Well, I've type ones have often said that in terms of opening up their heart, that as little ones they learn to close that down because they that sense of I don't want to be judged or found lacking, or that kind of sensitive heart that loves mercy. As a little one, it gets shut down because of fear, like all of us. But so, what's been the evolution of your heart? Is there something that?
Well, yeah, I can tell you, Michael, I found music at age 10
Hmm.
and I started playing guitar. It saved me.
Hmm.
It literally did.
Hmm.
Because I'm a type 1 who's very emotional. Okay. I got a big move to 4. I got a big move to 7. Okay.
Hmm.
And I found that music, even though it was codependent love songs on pop radio at that time,
Uh-huh.
saved my emotional life
Hmm.
because it gave me some place somewhere to put my emotional expression.
Hmm.
So it was music, I feel, that helped me in this regard. Okay.
Mhm.
And yeah, because I started performing when you know actually playing gigs when I was 12, 13, 14 years old,
Hmm.
you know. And I've been a professional musician all my life,
Hmm.
now playing the crystal and Tibetan singing bowls,
Hmm.
but music through all its permutations has been one of the real aids into having an open heart. In fact, my first recording with the crystal singing bowls, I entitled Open Heart.
Hmm.
Because if I tell you the truth, and I'm telling you the truth,
Mhm.
That's how I want to be in the world,
Mhm.
is with an open heart.
Mhm.
And whatever slings and arrows come with it, so be it.
Mhm.
Because I know
Mhm.
operating from an open heart is better for me and definitely better for everybody else that I come in contact with.
Mhm. I
You
hear
know?
you. I hear you. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, you know.
Well, if you were going to share with, early developing type ones, teenagers, 20s, something, then
Yeah, yeah.
about, ideas that might help them relax the grip of their patterns. I mean, what
Yeah,
anything come to
sure.
mind for you as a recommendations or what you'd want to say to like a younger version of yourself, even?
Yeah, right. Would be, I think self love is very important,
Mm-hmm.
and self acceptance. Um, you know, anything that I reject in my consciousness is going to go into the shadow. And just like Roar has written, the being able to plumb my shadow has helped me to embrace my humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first thing I would say to a younger type one is, in any way that you can, ease up on yourself. You know, generally, you're good enough is somebody else's. Boy, you did that excellently. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, uh, you know, the world's been spinning around for a long time. It was spinning around before I came along. It's going to spin around long after I've gone. And as a friend of mine says, we're closer to the end of the runway now at our age. And, I'll be taking off sooner or later here, and the world is still going to be going on. So it's like, ease up a little bit, ease up,
Mm.
ease up.
Yeah.
It's okay to have some fun. It's okay to make mistakes. It's, uh, you know,
Mm.
um, it's just okay. Just relax a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Type one kind of want to makes things better. Type one wants to fix things. It's like, to be truthful, I've probably been more concerned about my own inner perfection than perfecting you or the world in general. Though, that said, I definitely do have my shoulds. Oh, yeah, we should be more conscious than we are. Look what's going on, and guess what? We ain't. So
Yeah.
I tell you what, buddy, if you want to ease up on your own suffering, accept what is.
Mm.
The more I resist what is in the moment,
Mm.
whether it's that traffic jam, the political situation, or what I observe in my relationships, breathe, self observe, ease up,
Mm.
hold it a little more loosely. The world's going to keep spinning. The sun is going to rise, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Easy does it. Easy does it. Yeah.
Yeah, brother, easy does that. Progress.
Not perfection.
Yeah, you know what? let's don't worry about perfection. Because you want to know what? The holy idea of type 1 is holy perfection. It's perfect as it is because it is. And when I resist that fact, that's when I'm going to suffer. And I tell you what, if I'm in my suffering stuff, you're probably going to suffer too, because there's going to be some spillover. Okay, you know. Yeah, I once had a younger colleague here at the Conscious Living Center, and she was fairly empathic. And I tell you what, in class and sometimes in feedback groups, she goes, you don't even have to open your mouth, and I could tell when you're cooking with something, because it just comes off you in waves, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah, yeah. Well, it's
yeah.
the other idea of 4 steps forward, 3 steps back, right? That we make
There you go.
progress and we think we're through something, and then we get thrown back and repeat and go again.
Absolutely right. I remember before going into the Enneagram work, I've engaged in, a lot of, shall we say, self-help or, growth opportunity things. And there was an outfit here in Cincinnati called Life Success Seminars. Okay. And it came out of Werner Erhard
Yeah,
Est work.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
And, you take the basic training, which is very good. And
Mm-hmm.
it's particularly good for people who may be just starting to look into becoming more awake. Okay. Uh, the the second level of classes were more intense, and you would actually work with a facilitator in front of the group on really hardcore issues. And I remember on one of these, they were called interpersonal intensives. I got up with a facilitator in front of the group, and I basically said, "You're going to love this. You are going to love this." I said, "I want to get rid of my anger." And it was pre Enneagram, so I didn't know the body types have underlying anger. And guess what? It ain't going. I mean, you can manage it, you can make conscious choice, but you ain't getting rid of it. And so, I worked with this guy up there, and the basic drill at the end of it all was, hey, you develop these tools, you have a toolkit, and you can actually make conscious choice about how you deal with stuff that triggers you. And guess what? Anger just happens to be part of who you are, and you can use it. I mean, are we going to sit here and think that the Reverend Martin Luther King was never angry? Come on.
Yeah,
I mean, he was a guy that used his anger for
mm,
good,
yeah,
you know? I
yeah.
mean, that's what I would like to think.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, I think so.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck getting rid of your anger, Ron. It's
Well,
pretty much hardwired.
I remember when I came into recovery for addiction, and um, there was a little bit of this idea that you could get rid of some of your anger, right? And
Uh,
I think which step was it? Made a decision, to let my higher power remove my patterns, right? But they didn't
yeah.
put a
Okay.
little subtitle thing that says, well, it won't get removed, but you can certainly ask for help from the divine, right? But I can remember I thought I
Right.
at one point I thought I was done with my anger, and oh boy, when that thing, baby, when I woke up, I came out like a dragon. I said, wow, it just was. it was just geometrically increasing when it was in the shadow, right? So yeah,
Right.
this idea of getting rid of parts of ourselves is one I think sometimes that accidentally gets sort of hinted at in workshops. You're going into your essence states. Well, essence states are great, but you're not going to leave your personality behind. And when it pops up, it may be
No, you're not.
grumpier than ever. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. There's the both and right there.
yeah.
That's the both and.
Hmm.
I'm human and divine
Yeah,
at the same time.
yeah, yeah,
That's the deal. I
yeah.
mean, not to get on a preacher's pedestal here, but if we look at any avatar or world teacher, from the Buddha to the Christ, they inhabited their humanity as well as their divinity, higher conscious, or whatever we could say. And in fact, they incarnated in this form to teach us that very same thing. Don't you like when the type one kind of
I
gets
know.
testifying, baby?
Testify. I'm with you.
Yeah, testifying. I know. And hey, here you'll like this as a type 4. So when I went into recovery 30 years ago, I would have been called terminally unique because most of the time I kind of thought I was kind of above all you all, and at times, below you all.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And what the real deal for me was to get okay being in the mix.
Mm,
It's okay to be Joe Blow.
yeah, right size.
It's okay. Right size.
Yeah,
Right. We talk about humility. For me, that means I'm being in proper perspective to the universe.
yeah,
I'm not above or below.
yeah,
I'm in the mix.
yeah,
And this is one of the reasons, you know, my father was like this too, but certainly I can hang with anybody.
yeah.
I can talk with anybody,
Mm, yeah.
from the bum in the street to the CEO.
Hmm.
Now, kind of depends what shape I'm in too, and how I might relate.
Yeah.
So that has to do with, doing my own self work and observing.
Hmm.
But being in the mix has been a blessing to me,
Mm,
a
it is
real blessing.
yeah, it is a blessing.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
definitely a
totally.
lot more fun, that's for sure. Just more joy.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And, you've probably detected, hey, I'm a guy that likes to laugh. And I'm okay making me the butt of my own joke. And yeah, I know what I'm like when I'm like all wound up and tight. It ain't fun, brother.
I hear you. I hear
Yeah,
you.
really.
Yeah,
So yeah, man.
yeah. Well, I appreciated how when you went into preacher mode that you caught you said, "Yep, see, there I am, and I'm gonna bring the Lord to you with the Buddha," and it was great, great awareness, and also great fun. But yeah, that's that kind of you know passion of the one for truth, and
Right.
yeah, yeah, and the joy
Yeah,
in
and that's right. And you really hit it. I mean, I'm I've been a lifelong student
yeah.
of spirituality, consciousness,
Mm,
um,
mm,
growth, for lack of a better word.
mhm.
I just came to it naturally.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I was a kid. Um, uh, um, uh, Cadillacs were like the car. Okay. All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Volkswagens were kind of like you know, the everyday kind of Joe Blow kind of car, right?
Hmm.
So my father used to say, Ronnie, you got Cadillac taste on Volkswagen budget. Now, it's kind of like I innately knew the good stuff. Okay.
Hmm.
So it's like, I kind of innately knew the diamond kind of teachings,
Hmm.
that kind of
Hmm.
stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe because of my wiring of my own soul's journey,
Hmm.
I could hear the truth,
Yeah.
at least as I felt it and how is it applied to me. And it was like, yeah, so like from my early 20s, I just
Mm.
kind of gravitated towards this stuff,
Yeah. 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 That myself too. Uh, well, so I'm covering up, the soul of the one here and all the possibilities. Is there anything that I haven't touched on that you'd like to add, or any teaching moments or funny moments when your patterns were revealed once again? Anything that comes to mind?
Um, now that you ask me directly, I can't think of one.
Yeah, I know.
I'm kind,
Uh,
I'm kind of sure there is. And with that said,
yeah. Okay. Well,
I'm drawing a little blank.
great, great. Well, that that's also so interesting to notice. Like when you get the direct questions, like, nothing there, and then so I'll just see if there's something else still lying around inside myself around this.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. One of the things that I can remember, my path was from primal therapy with Arthur Janov
Right.
to Werner Erhard, the Forum, the Sixth Day, the seminars,
Yep.
to Zen Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Enneagram, Diamond Heart, Gurdjieff, all along the way,
Yeah.
and it seemed like the
Yeah.
thread. One of the things that really captured my attention was with Gurdjieff. He talked about that his work was focused on trying to create and bring tools to the world that would allow them to navigate this time period that we're in now, where structures that supported us are now seem to be devolving, and
Correct.
and and that we would hit a crisis point, like we're in it. Pretty easy to spot,
Yes,
like,
we are.
whoa,
Yep.
every day is like, oh my God, I cannot believe that happened today. Um, but
Yeah.
has that been a part of your understanding or your journey, the sense of the the importance of this time frame in terms of I hope we survive, sort of thing? I mean, what's true for you?
Yeah. So what's true for me is, let's take this from a type 1 perspective, perhaps.
Yeah.
If I wasn't doing my self work, wow. Now I'm still doing self work. Okay. There's no arriving. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I would be ate up beyond your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ate up so thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
I would be venomous. I would be poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
I would be so locked in to that us, them mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And folks, here's the disclaimer: I still go there,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Yeah.
don't live there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say, Michael, that without my study of the levels of consciousness and spiral dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be in really, really bad shape.
Yeah.
as a type 1, given what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
I mean, to realize, there are levels of consciousness, and, there's a variety, of ways to be
Mhm.
and see, feel, experience, and that I have to keep in mind that, a lot of what's going on is described in the levels of consciousness. Okay, for one.
Mhm.
Then the other thing uh, is a generational theory by Strauss and Howe called the fourth turning.
Hmm.
And they limit their commentary to the United States of America, though it seems there is some global application. So Strauss and Howe, through their generational theory of the fourth turning, is that the United States, every 80 to 100 years, goes through kind of a seismic shift,
Mhm.
and that it's broken down into 20-year cycles.
Hmm.
So the last seismic shift we had was in the late 40s, coming out of World War II,
Mhm.
into the 20th century. Kind of baby boomers were the entree to that.
Mhm.
And at the point where we are now, that started around 2008, is the fourth turning. There's a first turning, a second
Mhm.
turning, and a third turning. And we
Mhm.
are in the fourth turning right now.
Mhm.
And hallmarks of the fourth turning are a breakdown of institutions,
Mhm.
um, doubt and skepticism around, you know, uh, the way we've operated,
Mhm.
assailing the press.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, this really breakdown of institutions,
Yep. And
um,
trust in them.
and trust in them, right? And really for very direct attacks on these things. Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
and we can see that that has happened, and of course, come 2016, this stuff went full bore.
Mhm.
But you can see it with the rise of the Tea Party.
Mhm.
A little more
Mhm.
pugnacious
Yeah.
uh, dealing. Newt Gingrich when he was
Mhm.
speaker, and
Mhm.
how it's all kind of like evolved. So without this spiral levels of consciousness, and without some understanding of this fourth turning stuff,
Mhm.
I would be eaten alive as a type 1. I really would. I
Yeah.
mean, I would be one of the meanest, most angry persons
Mm.
you could ever meet.
Yeah.
I would almost be toxic if I
Well,
was not self-observing. Okay.
well, you can
Yeah.
certainly see people coming apart at the seams, just
Oh
as you
yeah.
described. So we are very fortunate to have a way to navigate it with some awareness and compassion. Yeah, yeah, uh,
Sure. And,
yeah.
then, and that awareness and compassion has to start with me,
Mm,
for me,
yeah, that's right.
particularly as a type 1.
Mm,
Okay.
mm.
You know, oh, I'll give you a good teaching moment here you asked about.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Uh-huh.
right. Here we go. Everybody's going to get a laugh out of this. All right. So, as I've mentioned, Dr. Debbie Uten is my supervisor at the Conscious Living Center. Um, so I was getting ready with another colleague to do a presentation to a corporate group. There happened to be a female type 2 that's in our crew that happened to be part of this corporate group we were presenting to. So Debbie said, hey, if you and so have any technical problems, don't let Sherry help you. okay? Because she's a two, she's going to want to jump in there, right? Or at least,
Yeah, help
what
out
we
somehow.
think of most. Right, exactly. So guess what? We have a technical problem. Me and the other presenter are up there like, I don't know about you, but I go immediately to low side of 4 and I want to slip my wrists. Okay. It's like my cognitive problem solving abilities go out the door. Okay. So, I see Sherry out in the audience looking at us like, I could help you. I could probably fix it. And, the clock is ticking, right? And it was like, okay, come on up and help us. Okay. She clicks on this and she clicks on that, and we're back in business. Right? So we finished the presentation. I go back to my office, and like a day or so later, Debbie says, "Oh, can you come up? I'd like to see you in my office for a second." And of course, it's like, oh yeah. Yeah, she found out. Debbie found out. Somebody told her, because I didn't. Somebody told her. And I'm walking up the steps to her office. And I want to tell you, homie, the shouldas, you shouldn't have done that. You should have told her. All the guns and the barbed wire and the inner critic. I tell you what, there's probably only 20 steps up to her office, and every one of those steps was like a time bomb going off, right? So I get up to Debbie's office, and she says, "You got any idea why I wanted to see you?" I said, "Yeah, I got an idea." And she says, why don't you tell me? And I said, "Well, you said if so-and-so and I had a problem, don't ask Sherry to help us." And then she goes, "And what happened?" I said, "Well, I asked Sherry to help us." And she said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" I said, "Whenever I make you a promise in the future, I will honor that promise." And she looked at me and she said, "Okay, cool. Thanks. See ya." And I went back down to my office. And then, later at a supervisory session, I said to her, "Well, how come you didn't chew me another what, or, cuss me out?" And she goes, "Well, why the hell would I do that? On those 20 steps up here, you were doing that to yourself. Why the hell would I want to jump onto that, huh?" So there you go. There's a master teacher of the Enneagram who knows type.
Yeah. Well,
Ammo.
I thought she was going to say, next time ask the type 2 to help you sooner.
No, that's good. That's very good.
Well, look,
there you go.
It's been a pleasure to be with you, and I'm so glad that I just really feel like I've got a chance to really get to know you in a way I hadn't before. So it's really been awesome. So thank you for all the beautiful sharing you've done, Ron. And I'm looking forward to seeing you, and I hope you make it to San Francisco. I hope I make it there one way or another.
Right,
Yeah.
Of course. And Michael, I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be real.
You
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I
mean,
so
that's the deal,
Yeah.
So I love you, brother.
Yeah,
and
I love you too.
Forward to being with you too. Okay.
All right. Well, much love, and I'll see you. I'll see you hopefully in the near future. So I'm going to turn
yes, sir.